Okay, hello everyone. My name is Quang Tan, and I'll be bringing you the workshop today on speaking and listening better English for Vietnamese speakers. And this is based on my many years of experience teaching English as a second language, or ESL, to mostly Vietnamese people. And the workshop will last about an hour or so, and I hope that that will be very beneficial to you. And this is a virtual workshop, so if you want to ask questions or make comments, please type in the chat box, and I will address them either during the presentation or at the end. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, again, my name is Quang Tan, and I was born and raised in Saigon many moons ago. And I came to the US after high school to go to college, and I have stayed there ever since. I have a math and science background. I'm a retired petroleum engineer, but I also for many years have taught ESL as a second job. And the focus of today's presentation is on American English. And this doesn't mean to be encompassing and include everything. It's not comprehensive. I would just hit the major points and important points based on my teaching experience. And these are only my opinions, so some other people may disagree with some of this, but that's okay. And then I'm only going to bring awareness to you, and you have to work hard to get better at speaking and listening. You won't, after listening to this presentation, all of a sudden become an expert in, and then speak like a native speaker. You have to practice and work very hard at it. And I would imagine that what I'm about to tell you or present here is somewhere between advanced beginner to intermediate English level, okay? Quickly, I just go through this slide to show you how crazy English pronunciation can be. Okay, you look at the first line. These words are all spelled differently, but all have the same sound, the oo sound. So it's two, flew, through, flew, shoe. And the first three, they all spelled differently, but all sound the same, two. So that's how crazy English pronunciation can be. Okay, and you take the first pair there on the second line. Go to each word only involves two letters, but still they don't sound the same. It's not go to, but go to. So that's kind of crazy. And how, low, not how loud. Touch and couch, herd and beard, daughter and laughter. So it's kind of all over the place. More examples here. Predict, but indict, okay? Food, hood, but blood. Comb, tomb, but then bomb. Cough, tough, though, thought, through, all have different sounds, even though the O-U-G-H combination of letters are the same. And then those pairs here have the first word as an aspirated word. That means that, or a sound, that means that there's air coming out, but the next one doesn't. So take, but mistake. Pit, but spit. Core, but score. And then the suffix T-I-O-N can be pronounced in three different ways: motion, question, and equation. Okay, and some more examples here. The first one is fruit, but the next one is not fruition, it's fruition. Face becomes facetious, and mean doesn't become meandering, but rather meandering. So that's kind of crazy, isn't it? And then you have words that are pronounced differently, stress on a different syllable depending on whether it's a noun or it's a verb. For example, insult is a verb, insult is a noun. Same with produce and produce. Produce means vegetable. And present and present. But not only that, the word present can mean different things and spelled and spoken exactly the same way. So present can be a gift, or present can mean, an adjective can mean so like at the present time. So it's all over the place, right? English pronunciation. So just a little slide to whet your appetite. Okay, this is outline of what we'll be covering today. And number one, I'll cover the common speaking mistakes by Vietnamese speakers. That's based on my teaching experience. And then we go to the difficult or problematic sound to Vietnamese speakers, because we don't have those same sounds in our language. And then steps you can follow. We're going to approach, talking near native or like a native speaker. And then I'll offer miscellaneous tips from my, again, teaching experience. And then last but not least, I'll try to explain and theorize why it's hard to understand native speakers, okay? Okay, so we'll cover the first topic, common speaking mistakes. And whenever we go to, there are 5 topics there, whenever we go to a new one, you have to put up with looking at a photo of what I'm doing in my spare time, and then we do an exercise. Okay, let's see what the first one is. Okay, there's a picture of me mountain climbing. And in the beginning, I put these photos in here just for, amusement of the audience. And then I received very positive feedback from the audience. They said, oh, we like your photos because, believe it or not, they said, because it's either, they either wake us up or they bring it back from daydreaming. So that's kind of funny. So they are here to stay. They serve a purpose. Number one, exercise number one, that is, in your opinion, which English word is most often mispronounced by Vietnamese speakers? And since this is a virtual presentation versus like a live presentation in front of an audience, you know, I won't be walking around and asking people for their contribution to the answer to the exercise, but rather I just go ahead and give you the answer. My choice would be the word Southern, because it's starting with the root word is South, and it has that South and the soft TH sound at the end with air coming out, South. But then with the suffix ERN added, and it becomes Southern. The South becomes Sa, like Vasa or Summit, okay? And then the TH changes from soft TH to hard TH, so Southern. So to me, most people miss that, and they continue to say Southern all the time. So to me, that's one of the most often mispronounced words. Next is receipt. And because the P is there, a lot of Vietnamese people call this or pronounce it as receipt, which is the way it should be, but you know, because the P is silent, it's receipt, like a car seat, okay? So remember that. And then these words are often mispronounced only because the Vietnamese speakers tend to drop the N sound. And the reason is in our language, don't have that many N sounds. So the sound N in these words are all dropped most often by Vietnamese people. So they would sound like lie rather than line. You know, to go online, they say, I'll go online. And then find, they usually say fight. And sound, they say sound. Notice the N is missing, sound. Assign, they said aside. And point, they say point. Point without the N. So remember and don't drop these N sounds, okay? So that's quick exercise there. Okay, we'll cover the first topic, common speaking mistakes. Number one, we tend to drop sounds in the word, just like in the exercise we just saw, okay? And then we fail to link sounds that should be connected together because the first word ends with a consonant and the second one starts with a vowel. You see all that in a second. And then we speak in a monotone, lacking stress, rhythm, and intonation. Okay, so let's go into detail now. Look at these 6 words with the different N sound. The first sound's all the same. It's all five, but it's five or fine, this and that. So they're different if we pronounce all the N sounds. So it's five, fine, find, fight, fire, and file. Okay, so remember that. The third word is find, and most people just say fight. And actually it's the same as the second word, which is find, but adding the D. So to say correctly, just say the second word correctly first and then add the D. So it's find, okay? One note to you guys is that I will accentuate and exaggerate the N sounds and here and there, just to make sure you can hear it. But when you get good at speaking English, you don't need to say fine or five. You just say fine, very light N sound at the end, but don't forget it, because if you forget it, you'll be saying five instead of fine, okay? And then middle sound, these words have middle sound, so don't drop them. Custom, ethnic, Facebook, 19, it's not 19, it's 19, leaflet, judgment. And then some words have both middle and end sounds, like athletes, deafness, disaster, existence, justice. Don't just say jetted or something like that. Justice, isthmus. This word is, what's the middle sound for this word? Actually, it's not the TH, because the TH is silent. So the middle sound is the S sound, isthmus, okay? Toothache, ending with the CHE sound, that's a K sound. Truthfulness, voiceless, stagecoach, okay? And then these are common words that Vietnamese people like to drop sounds. Like you've seen some of that or some of those already. About, we say about, like, fine, sign, line, and so on and so forth. We like to say, I like to talk to you about, it's not good English. You need to pronounce all the N sounds, okay? Don't say stuff like, he is very nice. Of course, you should say, he is very nice with all the N sounds. And I like to talk about the last 5 mistakes. Not, I like to talk about the last 5 mistakes, without the N sound. And then we found the design to be pointless. And then my sister liked to eat brown rice. Not my sister like to eat brown rice. Okay, so remember, don't drop the sounds that either in the middle or at the end of the words. Okay, and these words are you need to pronounce them correctly, like downtown with the 2 N sounds. Don't say downtown, okay? And firefight, and don't say guideline, but guideline, and outline, lifeline, and lifetime. So that's the biggest problem we have is we drop sounds. And that's because in our language, we don't have N sounds hardly. So, but try to get to the habit of pronouncing the N sounds. And then we fail to link sounds where there's sound to link. And like the end of the first word there, come, has an M, which is a consonant sound. And then on has a vowel in the beginning. So we connect the M to the O. So it becomes come on, not come on, and kind of, nice sending, still oven, real estate, both of us, piece of cake. And this one, a lot of people would pronounce it as soon as, but it's not as soon as. It's pronounced as soon as, as soon as, as soon as. We'll leave as soon as he gets here. Okay, we'll leave as soon as he gets here. That's how you should pronounce the as soon as. And these are pretty simple. Just connect the consonant in the first one to the vowel in the second word. So check up, cheer up, clean up, light up, move up, speak up, shut up, and wise up. Okay, and this is how it should sound with all the sounds linking and connecting that we can do in these sentences. The news is awful. The news is awful. I'm in a hurry. Not I am in a hurry, but I'm in a hurry. And please ask her aunt to speak up. Please ask her aunt, speak up. All those links. Please ask her aunt to speak up. And then I should throw this in here because a lot of people are still saying stuff like the designation for Los Angeles, LA. It's LA and not LA. Okay. And similarly, we have not HR, but HR, FRS, MRI. We say MRI and not MRI like you do in Vietnam. NRA, RSA, SFO, okay? And do you know what these are called? Just incidentally, they're called initialism. A lot of people would think they're acronyms, but they are not. Acronyms are those initialisms that form a nice and neat word that we can pronounce, like instead of say NATO, like an initialism, we say NATO. That's an acronym, a nice word to use. NASA, RAM, that's random access memory in your computer. UNESCO, radar, and laser. For a while I didn't know that radar and laser are acronyms. Radar stands for radio detection and ranging. And laser stands for light amplification by stimulated emission of radiation. So those are acronyms. Okay, and then the third major mistakes that Vietnamese speakers tend to have is we talk with no proper stress, rhythm, and intonation. Okay, the speech is pretty like a monotone, lacking stress, lacking rhythm and intonation. A word, if it has more than one syllable, then it will have a stressed and an unstressed syllable. And if it has several syllables, it may have a major stress or in a minor stress. Same with a sentence. It's a long sentence. It has several words that are stressed. So some would be major, some would be minor, and then the rest would be unstressed syllables, unstressed words. Okay. And then we talk with not proper rhythm and intonation, and we will into that in detail later. But look this sentence. In my spare time, I like to listen to the music. See, it's not in my spare time, I like to listen to the music. Okay. So for example, to the music, to the, you find in a little bit that those are function words. So they have less stress or unstressed, and you lump them together and you pronounce them quickly. So to the, I like to listen to the music. You can barely hear to the, right? So that's the proper rhythm there. Anyway, one more. She thought that she left this letter on the table. Same thing. On the table. Letter on the table. Okay, so those are the intonation and rhythm example. So we just finished the first item on our agenda, and that's the common speaking mistakes. And I hope that you will realize that if you have those mistakes and you need to correct them to improve your speaking skills, don't just know about it, but and do nothing about it, and you continue to drop sound, even though you know that it's a common problem with Vietnamese speakers. Okay, do something about it. Okay, then we'll go to number 2, which is problematic English sound to, oops. Let me see. Yeah, number 2, problematic sounds to Vietnamese speakers. And when we go to a new topic, then we have to look up another photo and do another exercise, right? So here's the next photo. Oh, that's an airplane. You know, in the US, you can actually rent an airplane and fly around, just like in Vietnam when you rent a car or a motorbike. And then also you can you can build your own airplane to save money, because if you buy a ready-built airplane, it's going to be very expensive. And these airplanes are built by someone, not by a company, and they're called experimental airplane. Okay. Anyway, exercise number 2. Okay, the hardest words, or some of the hardest English words to pronounce correctly are what? What would be your vote? And in a regular workshop, I would, walk around and ask for contribution from different people, but here it's virtual, so I go ahead and give you the answer. In my opinion, it's the word world, because of the cluster of 3 consonants at the end. And we'll get to that later. And the word judge. Judge has 2 sounds in the front and the back that are different. Just like job is different from chop. Jump is different from chump, okay? So judge is pronounced like that, and some dictionaries even give both sound the same, which I disagree. Okay, so now we go to number 2, problematic or difficult sounds, okay? What are they? They are the R sound, the L sound, a dark L, that's a very difficult one, the TH sound, and the short vowel versus the long vowel sounds. Okay. First, we'll tackle the R sound. You know, the R, if it's at the start of a word, we have no problem with that, because we have the same thing in Vietnamese. Ru ri, the R at the beginning. But if the R are toward the end, like car, we don't have that sound, so people have problem with that. So what you need to do is roll the tip of your tongue and bring it back to make that R sound. It can start with the ah, and then it changes to R, by just bring the tongue back and roll the tip of the tongue. I'll give it a try here. You can see it changes from ah to R, okay? Here you go. R, you see, it changed from ah to R. So that's the R sound. Heart, work, person, thunder, learner, courtyard. We have a lot of R sounds in English, so you need to master that. Cardboard, Herbert, performer. The 3 R sounds in the word performer, okay? And the next difficult sound is the most difficult sound in English, in my opinion, is a dark L, with L at the end. And I found that the easiest way to do it with all the fancy techniques is just replace the L at the end or toward the end with the word, with the sound O in Vietnamese, like O when O, O. So call, by the way, but that O needs to be, excuse me, deep in your mouth. The deeper it is, the better it sounds. So call, the first word call, just like call O, but the O is deep. So call, O, not O in front, but O. So bill, O, mile, tell, and just like that. And don't let your tongue come up and then touch the roof of your mouth with this L, like tell. That's a wrong L. That's a French L, not the English L. Okay? And useful, compel, denial. You see that faint O sound where I pronounce the dark L? Usual. Okay? School. Oh, school. Okay? And then when the dark L is associated with some other consonant, and that word is pronounced deep in your mouth, and because of the dark L. So a Vietnamese speaker may say co, pencil, building, and I would understand that person completely, but that's not correct pronunciation. If you want to sound better, you need to say those words deep in your mouth because that's where the dark L is. So a native speaker would sound something like cold rather than cold, and pencil rather than pencil, okay? And building, building rather than building, okay? And then the next two, just help, calm, all right. And then the hard and soft TH, there are two kinds, the hard and the soft, but with both of them, you have to, the starting position is placing your tongue between your teeth, like this. And then the hard one, there's no air coming out, so it's non-aspirated. And the soft one, there's air coming out. So the hard ones are like these: the, them, there, this, that, then, though. You have to have your tongue there between your teeth. Don't try to substitute this for the D sound. I mean, don't try to substitute with the D sound. So don't say duh. I go to the market. That doesn't sound good. So the, okay? And the soft TH is aspirated. So you have to have air blowing out with your tongue still between your teeth. Something like this. So you say thin, thick, thief, thing, thumb, three, thorough, Thursday, okay? Three is kind of hard because the TH is soft and then there's the R there. So three, don't say tree, okay? All right. If TH is at the beginning or in the middle of a word, then it can be hard or soft, like athlete, ethnic, rhythmic, something, all soft, but mother, father, both hard. But if TH is at the end of a word, it's always soft, okay? So it's both, with, tooth, wealth, and so on and so forth. But look at the word fifth. We tend to drop the F, so it becomes fifth, like F-I-T-H, fifth, instead of fifth. It's a lot of work, so just say fifth, okay? And now here comes the, here come the short vowel sound versus the long vowel sound, and the short I and the long E. They're very numerous, so I concentrate on them first. And look at the first pair is live versus leave, okay? So to say the first one, just substitute the short I there with the ear sound, like the ear we have in Vietnamese, like lia chia, ear. So live is L plus ear, that becomes lia, right? Lia. And then V, the sound. So live, that's all there is. replace the I with the ear every time. Lid is lid. Trip is trip. Say trip. Thin is thin. 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 So on and so forth. So we have city, dinner. Don't say dinner. Middle. Don't say middle. Okay. Prison, river, history, and minister. Minister has two short I's in a row. Near. Okay. Minister. Okay, for the long I sound, just use the E. It's very simple. So leave is L plus E. It becomes leave. And then you add the V. So it's leave. The other one is live. This one is leave. So we have achieve, beef, believe. Don't say believe. I hear a lot of people saying believe, but that's wrong. So believe, feel, everything with the E. Free, and then add the Z. Freeze, green, peach, please. Okay, please, don't forget the N sound has a Z sound. Please, and then sneeze. Really, you start with the re, and then the O for the dark L, and then the E for the Y. So really, and teacher, T, start with T, and it becomes teacher. Okay, so more short and long vowel sounds. By the way, the short sound is referred to as sometimes a lax sound because your mouth is kind of relaxed. But the long sound, there's a lot of muscles involved in your mouth, so it's tense. So, for example, live, you can hardly hear, see my mouth moving, but leave, you can hear, it's a lot of movement, leave, so it's tense. Okay, here are the short and long A and U and O. So they sound like this. Look at these pairs. Mat, but mate, cup, cube, full, fool, tall, tool, foot, food, grope, group. Okay, full and fool are pretty problematic to most people. So full, F-U-L or F-U-L-L, it's just full, and the other one is full. So full versus fool. So school, go to school, okay? And next we have a group of phrases that have two words, and one has a long sound and the other one has the short sound, or vice versa. And they're pronounced like like this. Steel mill, skin deep, tool bin, useful tool, feeling ill, native speaker, Middle East, cheap grill, thin beam, steep hill, deep discount, okay? And as you notice, the short sound, especially the I, has only one vowel, and the long sound has two vowels together usually, but there are exceptions. Look, the word bean, it should be bean, right? Because we have teen and green, but no, it's been, like B-I-N. It's an exception to the rule. Where have you been? We don't say, where have you been? Where have you been? Oh, I've been at my mom's house. What you been doing? I've been sleeping. So been. The next one is the same. It should be sieve, like believe, but it's not. It's sieve, like S-I-V, sieve. And look at the next one. The word chief has a long sound, chief, but in this case, it's at the short sound, mischief, not mischief. And the reason is it's unstressed. So when it's unstressed, it takes a short vowel sound, whether it has two vowels or not. On the contrary, the next two examples there, the short sound has the long sound. It takes the long sound. For example, that should be liter, right? But it's not. It's leader, leader. And it sounds the same as the word leader, someone who leads a group, leader. Okay, and the next one, instead of thumbing for a short U, is fuming. So those are exceptions. And okay, the next few words, you will have the long sound if the vowel is in the second syllable and the stress is on the second syllable. So complete, machine, regime, revere. And the next two or three there has the short sound because it's in the second syllable and the syllable is not stressed. So doctrine, not doctrine, but doctrine, engine, and famine. Okay, so that's the short and the long vowel sound. Okay, so we just covered the problematic or difficult sounds. And what are they? In summary, the R, the L, the TH, and the short vowel and the long vowels. Okay. Now we go to number 3. It's a new topic, so we need to see another photo and do another exercise. Okay, that's me at an orphanage in Phú Yên province. When I do humanitarian work in Vietnam, my favorite thing to do is visit orphanages. I just adore kids. And exercise number 3. Find a word with one or more silent letters. Okay, I go ahead and give you the my answer. Receipt, we've already seen that. The P is silent. Hour and court both have the H as silent letter. Island, the S is silent. Debt and subtle, they both have B as the silent letters. And this word, a lot of Vietnamese pronounce it as salmon. It is not, it's salmon. It's an exception to the rule because we have almonds, you know, the nuts that we eat, almond, but here it's not salmon because the L here is silent. So it's salmon. The first sound is se, like a xe hơi, xe ô tô, se, salmon. And then in thigh, the GH is silent. Same with asthma. Asthma, the TH in the middle is silent. And thought, the UGH cluster is silent. So that's just the quick exercise. And now we go to step 3. If you want to sound like a native speaker, what you need to do. And the answer is a lot of hard work, okay? All right, number 1, you're gonna master all the sounds, whether it's a basic sounds or it's problematic, okay? You avoid the typical mistakes that we've covered earlier that Vietnamese speakers make. You add slang and idioms and expressions if you can. The native speakers do that a lot. And then you have to speak with correct grammar. And that's a hard thing to do, as you will see in a few minutes. Okay. You can't expect to speak like a native speaker when you even still have problem with basic letters in the alphabet. So make sure you got all that down cold, okay? F, H, S, X, K, P, Q, T. And they all have aspiration or have air coming out, so remember that. And then just basic words. I still see a lot of people, you know, they're very fluent. I mean, they know a lot of words, good vocabulary, but they saying basic words with mispronunciation. So it's maddening at times. For example, 5, don't forget the V sound at the end. And 6, that's X sound at the end. And don't say 9, it's 9, 9. 12, a lot of people have a problem with that. It's just 12, add them together, 12, okay? And it's home, not home. It's cup, not coop. Don't look at it and pretend like it's, I mean, treat it like it's Vietnamese, you know? And then this is funny. I hear people pronounce words like clinic, and limit instead of clinic and limit. I don't know where they hear those from. I think they just look at the word and guess how it should be pronounced, and they do it, and not paying attention to what the correct pronunciation is. And similarly, they say available. Vai, V-A-I is vai in Vietnamese, but it's not in English, you know. So don't say available, available. And then don't say audience and August. Audience, just a regular audience, August. So the basic sounds, you need to know them really well before you can move to more complicated sounds, you know, and hope to speak to like a near native or native level. You need to master the difficult sound that we've covered previously. And then you gotta watch out for the consonant clusters. For example, in front of a word, we have train, drain, crane, and grain. And you got to be able to pronounce it so people would know which of those four you are saying. And similarly, the cluster at the end, like film, build, world. And this one, let me go ahead and show you how to say the word world. By the way, the British, they don't roll the R like that. They just say like world, the world, all over the world. But Americans say world. And if you look at it, it's W-O-R to start with. So pronounce it as word, like the past tense of R, word. And then you add the L, the dark L, which is what? The O sound. So word, O becomes world, right? And then the world is how you pronounce it. Put it together and put the O deeper in your mouth. World, world. It's just world. Okay? And then beware of silent consonants. We've seen some of those before, but I want to stress, we've seen cord, hour, island, debt, receipt, and salmon. I want to stress the word Wednesday, and some people pronounce it as Wednesday because of the D, but the D there is silent, so don't pay attention to it. How you say it is start with the sound when, like when will we leave? When, and then you add the S, and then you add the day. So Wednesday. Don't say wet, but Wednesday. Okay. And then here you need to know a little bit about the concept of voiceless and voiced sounds. Voiceless means that some sound, the kind of sound that you make, that when you're making it, your vocal cord doesn't vibrate. But the voice sound, when you make those sounds, your vocal cord would vibrate. Okay. So some of the voiceless sounds are the K sound, K, T, T, etc., etc. It helps us determine two things if we know about voiceless versus voice. Number one, the plurals, we know whether we pronounce it with S or Z. For example, books, caps, points, all with the S sound because the word book ends with the K, caps with the P, and point with the T, and those are voiceless consonants, voiceless sounds. So the plural has the S sound, so books, caps, and points. But look at the other three. They all have voice sounds at the end and before the S is added. So you pronounce it as cars, friends, windows, okay? And then also help us determine whether past tense pronounced with a T or a D. So if it's voiceless, it's T. If it's voiced, it's D. Worked, capped, guessed, washed, versus closed, killed, moved, canceled, okay? And when we link the sound, we know to link them correctly because we know whether it's a D or a T at the end of the past tense of that verb there. So worked hard because we know it's a T. Washed the shore, we know that's a T, but moved it and killed it because there are D, the D sounds, okay? And look at the word cancel, just a side note. It should be just with one L. I see a lot of writing with cancel with two L, and I don't think that's correct because as I recall, the rule is if the syllable is not stressed, then you have only one consonant. So cancel. So the stress is on the first syllable, can. It's not on soul. So that's why it's one L. But for words with the stress on the second syllable, like preferred or referred, it takes two R's because it's stressed on the second syllable. Anyway, okay, avoid your typical mistakes, okay? Dropping sound, failure to link sounds, we already covered those. Lacking stress, rhythm, and intonation, okay? So avoid all of those sounds if you want to, talk like a native speaker or approaching that anyway. Okay, these are the commonly mispronounced words by Vietnamese people. Find, sound, point, all because we dropped the N. Receipt, where we mentioned that. Southern, salmon. And the next one is pizza. It's not pizza. The first syllable is pronounced like repeat, Pete, or the name for Peter. The short name for Peter is Pete. So pizza. Okay, Wednesday, we already done that. Angel. Some people have problem with that first sound, aim, and there's something, oh, we don't have that in Vietnamese. Actually, we do. Okay, take the word lang ding, pronounced with a southern accent, gone twin, lang ding. That's lang ding, aim. That's the sound with angel. So remember that. Don't say angel. Okay. And airlines, not allies. You go to the airport, they always say inside in Vietnam, they always pronounce it as airlines. The reason is they drop the N sound. They pronounce instead of pronouncing line, they say lie. So they drop that, and then they add the S rather than the Z, because if you have the N sound in there, the S has a Z pronunciation. So airlines, and I just throw the cooperation in there because when I fly in Asia, almost all on Asian airlines, they said they may tell you, for example, they tell you to fasten your seatbelt, and then they thank you for your cooperation. If you notice, I always say that. Thank you for your cooperation. It's not cooperation. It's cooperation. So 2 syllables in the beginning. Co-op. Okay, cooperation. Believe, middle. We already knew that. Okay, of and off. 1 F and 2 Fs. A lot of Vietnamese treat them as the same, off, but actually the first one is like the le me, and at the V2 it's of, and the other one's off. Okay, all right. And then look at this group of words. The first group all have the O, the letter O there, but it's pronounced with the sound, the le me, not O. So we pronounce these words as oven, cover, dozen, mother. And the other ones, I already mentioned how to say world, but work and word, people have problem, differentiate between the two. It's pretty simple. WOR, like I mentioned a while ago, it's like word, right? You just add the K to it. Work, work. And the other one just add the D to it. Word. Okay? So don't get them mixed up. Okay. Stress, rhythm, and intonation. A word with several syllables can have, some as stressed, some as unstressed. And maybe if it's a long word with multi-syllable, then it may have more than one stress. So it have a major stress and a minor stress. And the same thing with a sentence. Sentence will have several words, and it may have a major sentence stress and a minor sentence stress, and the rest of the words in the sentence are unstressed. So you need to know what's a proper stress to be able to say the correct stress. And then the rhythm is how fast or how slow you pronounce the words, okay? And we'll cover this more in a little bit, but remember that English is not like Vietnamese in the sense that it's a stress time language, not a syllable time language. That means that the length of time it takes to say a sentence in Vietnamese depends on how many syllables you have in the sentence. But the time you take to say a sentence in English depends on how many stresses you have, not how many syllables. So that's the difference. And intonation, it's just the pattern of the changes of pitches when we talk, up or down, falling or rising, all this and that. So we all know that, for example, the yes, no question, we raise the pitch at the end. And at the end of a sentence, we lower the pitch. But it could be a little complex. For example, I give you the 2 examples here. Normally, when you ask someone, when are we having dinner? You drop the pitch at the end because it's not a yes, no question. But in some cases, you would raise the tone or the pitch at the end. For example, if we're asking and they tell us the time we're having dinner, but we didn't hear it well, so we want to ask the second time, we might say, what time are we having dinner? Or if they say 6 o'clock and you realize, I must do something else at 6 o'clock and I can't go out to dinner. So you ask again just to confirm you don't have a time conflict. So you ask, when are we having dinner? But normally the first time you just say, You just ask when we're having dinner. And then the next sentence there, when you say Julie is pretty, isn't she? Julie is pretty, isn't she? That means that you're asking for an opinion whether she is pretty or not. But when you say Julie is pretty, isn't she? That means you already made the decision. You already decided that she is pretty. You just want to tell it to the person that's listening to you. Okay, so just a quick treatment on stress, rhythm, intonation. Okay, to get good at this, you'll have to speak with proper stress, rhythm, and intonation. You need to know this concept of content words versus function words. It is very important. And I would say this is probably one of the most, if not the most important slide in the presentation today. So remember to learn more if you still need to work with stress and rhythm and intonation to learn more about these, because it would allow you to do a lot of things involving stress, rhythm, and intonation. For example, content words are words that mean something. It has a content. So you stress them. You give them a high pitch, higher pitch, and you pronounce them clearly. Nouns, adjectives, verbs, and adverbs are example of content words. And then function words, they don't mean as much, and they serve a purpose grammar-wise, but they don't add much to the content or the meaning of the sentence. Some, but not a whole lot. So they are not stressed. And so that you quickly pronounce them and you give them a low pitch. And sometimes you compress them together and you slur them together and you skip over them really quick. Articles, preposition, pronouns, and etc. are examples of function words, okay? In the following sentences, I highlighted or bolded the content words so you can tell they are content words and the rest is function words. And notice the pitch I give them when I talk. I don't say, you must do the homework in the living room like that. You must do the homework in the living room. You can barely hear in the living room. Reason is in the are function words. So you press them together and you pronounce them quickly in a low pitch. You must do the homework in the living room. We can only enter the zoo one person at a time. Our function word at a time. If you don't hear from me by the end of the week, you must call the police. From me by the, all function words. So you say them with a low pitch. It's difficult to find qualified workers for the company. So that's the principle of stress and rhythm and intonation. Learn as much as you can about content word versus the function words, because it will help you to overcome, once you get good at it, the problem of lacking proper stress, rhythm, and intonation. Okay, and the natives, they throw in a lot of slang and idioms and expressions. I just highlight some of the things that some of those that I thought was kind of interesting. A buck is a dollar. Dough means money, and grub means food. Let's go get some grub. Just a way of saying let's go eat. Okay, and then some more expression. Chick flick. Chick is a slang for ladies, women, and flick is a slang for a movie. So chick flick is a kind of movies that women like to watch. Probably a love story with lovey-dovey couple and then breaking up, and there's a lot of crying. So those are chick flicks. Pig out means you overeat. Wing it means you improvise. You wing it when let's say you do a presentation, but it's not your project, it's your co-worker's project, but on the day that you have to do the presentation, your worker is sick. So your boss say, go ahead and do it. Go ahead and do the presentation. So you have to improvise, do the best you can, you wing it. And hit the hay or hit the sack just means to go to sleep. A dime a dozen means very common, okay? Seeing a girl on a motorbike in Saigon is a dime a dozen, very common. Okay, so some more expressions. The whole 9 yards means everything. Your guess is as good as mine means I don't know. And keep the lid on this means keep the secret. Under the weather means you don't feel well. You're feeling ill or sick. So you can look up all these slang and idioms and expressions and learn, and you just pick the one you like and use them. but remember, pronounce them correctly. Don't say the whole 9 yard, the whole 9 yards, okay? And then to sound like a native or approaching sounding like a native speaker is hard because you have to speak with correct grammar. And that's the hardest part. And I'm still struggling with that at times. The reason is a native speaker, that's a native tongue, you know, that they were born and learn all through their lives with it. So it's natural to them, but not to us since it's a foreign language. For example, when you say, I bought 2 books from her yesterday, you have to remember that it's yesterday, so it's past tense. You don't say, I buy yesterday, I bought yesterday. And 2 books. 2 is plural, so you have to have the S after book, and book has a K, N sound, which is a voiceless sound. So the sound of the S is S, not Z. So we have to remember all of that and say it correctly. I bought 2 books from her yesterday. The native speaker, they say it all their lives, so it's natural, but it's not for us. So remember that. And it's hard to speak with correct grammar because first, we're not native, but when we write something, we can come back and make correction. We can see what we wrote that's not correct grammatically, but when we speak, the word's already out, it's already gone. So you have to be careful. You have to conjugate the verb, beware of the plural forms, everything in your mind, when the words are coming out. Everybody loves a free meal. You have to remember everybody, everyone, everything is takes they all take a singular form. So everybody loves a meal. Everyone was hungry, not were. Everything is free, not are free. Okay. The next one is, it is one of the fastest cars I've ever seen. The cars has to be plural because it is one of a bunch of cars, so plural. And when the plane lands in Saigon, we will have flown for 17 hours. That's just good grammar that you need to know. But the next 2 are just sentences with if. If I were, I would. If she had known, she would have waited. If she had known, she would have waited. Just, the rules of sentences with if. Okay, so we finish step number 3, which are steps to sounding like a native speaker. And what are they? You need to master all the sound, easy or hard. Avoid the typical mistakes that we've covered before. Add slang and idioms and expressions. And most importantly, speak with correct grammar. Okay? So that's step number 3. Now we go to step number 4. And as usual, we have to look at a photo and do an exercise. Oh, this is me, but actually, I play the guitar, but this is taken at a club in Saigon. It's called the Gourmet Club, and they were gracious enough to let me take the picture during the break and pretend like I was playing. Anyway, exercise number 4. Okay, these are quizzes more than exercise. But anyway, what do you think is the percentage of 2-syllable nouns that have the stress on the first syllable? How many percent of the nouns that have 2 syllables that is stress on the first one? It's a lot, 90%. Okay, what about the percentage for 2-syllable verbs this time, that have the stress on the second syllable? Okay, this time is the second syllable rather than the first syllable. Excuse me, 60%, just for your knowledge there. Okay, so now we come to step number 4, miscellaneous pronunciation tips. Okay, pay attention to these because some words are can be pronounced 2 different ways and they're both acceptable, like because and because, harass and harass, only and only, either and either, neither and neither, roof or roof, insurance or insurance. Okay, just some tips to you. And these guys are interesting because they follow some irregular pronunciation rules. So the first one, instead of aging, is aching, the K sound. And the next 3, the L doesn't have the typical L sound. but it takes the yeah sound like the yeah in Vietnamese. Yeah. So it's not failure, but it's failure, value, volume. But be careful because some still retain the classic L sound like column. It's not column, it's column. So you have to know which is which. So you have to learn and remember all those words. Okay, issue, two S's have the SH sound, issue. And then the next two, the T is not pronounced as a T, but as a ch. So costume, virtue, okay? And the next two are pronounced, the D's pronounced as a j, arduous, oh no, arduous, soldier. And the next two has the sh sound, consortium, militia. So militia, mili has two short I there, so it's milia, militia, okay? And the next three, the N doesn't have the regular N sound, but rather the nya. Nya sound like the nya sound in Vietnamese. Monument, not monument, but monument. Tenure, not tenor, tenure. Vineyard, okay, it's not vineyard, vineyard. And then the last two have the Z sound, even though there's letter S. Treasure and vision. So these are just the miscellaneous tips that you need to remember. These words are always have the S at the end, so don't drop the S. I always like to go to the zoo. See, I always like to go to the zoo. Lyrics, news, politics, physics, sometimes all have the S. And sometimes here means occasionally it has the S, but when you have two words, some and time, that's different. And it doesn't have the, they don't have the S, or the second one doesn't have the S. Like when I say, I would like to visit you sometime, that's different from this sometimes, which is occasionally. Okay, some of the harder words of the nouns, just throw them up here. Adolescence, itinerary, January, perpetual, perpetuity, secure, usual. And look at January, the actual correct uh, pronunciation has four syllables. January, January. Same with February, February. But in casual speech, we just say January, February. Okay. And these are some the name of some localities that is kind of and things and people, places that are kind of strange or doesn't follow a regular rule. So I just want to point them out to you. Kansas, but not Arkansas. Kansas, but Arkansas. And CHI is pronounced as sheep, not cheap. Chicago. And this state in the U.S. is not Connecticut, it's Connecticut. Connecticut. Freud, Hawaii, Illinois. Illinois, there's no S at the end. The S is silent. So the state of Illinois. But look at the state of Massachusetts. It has the S at the end. Okay. Nazi. It's not Nazi, it's Nazi. And the next word is Reuters, not Reuters, Reuters. And the last one is most popular city in Canada. And you pronounce it as Toronto, Toronto, not Toronto, but Toronto. So these are just a miscellaneous pronunciation tips. Okay, these are some of the tongue twister I made up to help you practice on certain sound. And they are correct. The sentences are correct grammatically, but sometimes they don't make a whole lot of sense, but they're useful. They serve a purpose. So like the first one, just to practice the R sound. So the hard part is at the start, and we must learn to record and report from the courtyard. Okay. Next one is just the dark L and the short and long vowels. Do you feel fulfilled or do you feel like a fool? Fulfilled, fool. And similarly, because the pool hall is full of teens, I couldn't sit next to his seat and I had to leave for the flat where he lives. And this is the practice for the THs. The thrifty thieves thought that they didn't throw away those three things there on Thursday. Let's find the vowels of the 5 fine firefighters. I believe I have lived long enough to know that beauty is only skin deep. I believe my teacher lived on a steep hill by an old steel mill. And then here's the ein sound with the N sound. You were kind to grind and no, you were kind to find and grind and bind the fine designs I had in mind. And then the practice for the not ow, but sounds. It sounds like the amount of discount they found downtown is frowned upon by the clowns. And then the oin, not oi, but oin sounds. If the points are the same, they will join up and toss a coin from the groin to determine the winner. Okay? Okay. And some more tips. These are pretty easy. All these suffixes, you put the stress on the syllable right in front of them, except for the last one, you put the stress on the ology. But the rest of them, like music, the mu right before the ick, music, comic, fantastic. Et, just putting on the sound before it. Unity, ability, community. But actually, we, as Americans, we tend to flap the T into a D. So we say unity, ability, community. Okay? And clerical, comical, graphical. And the shun, you stress the one right before the shun sound. Lotion, motion, rejection. And again, the ology, you stress on the all. Apology, astrology, biology, and so on and so forth. So those are the tips that I just want to give out based on my teaching experience to Vietnamese people. And now we go to number 5. Why is it hard to understand native speakers? And because we go to a new topic, we have to look at another photo and do another exercise. Okay, mountain climbing. Looks fun, doesn't it? And then exercise number 5, just a quiz. What are the 2 words that contain the most letters? I just want to be funny, so I give you this answer. Post office. You know how many letters there are at the post office? We mail letters to the post office. I mean, we mail letters to people on the post office, handle them all the time, a bunch of letters. So the 2 words that contain the most letters, post office, okay? Okay, last but not least, why is it hard to understand native speakers? And these are my theories or my opinions. Okay, number 1, probably the most important thing, because we don't speak exactly the same English as they do. I call it Vietnamese English that we talk, you know, like dropping the sound, the end sound, don't link the words, and lacking proper stress rhythm and intonation. So we call it Vietnamese English. If we don't speak the same exactly, it's kind of hard to understand them when they speak a little bit differently from what we do, from how we do. You ever wonder why the people from Saigon and from Hanoi, when they travel to Hue, they have a problem understanding the Hue locals? But the people from the people living in Hue, they don't have any problem understand one another because they speak the same way. Okay, so we need to want to understand them perfectly. You need to speak exactly like them or strive to anyway. Also, in casual conversation, they talk slightly different than informal speech. Okay, and then they use a lot of slang, idioms, and expressions. And then maybe because our vocabulary is limited. For example, if you know happiness, you know the meaning of happiness and sadness, but they throw in words that you haven't seen before, like sorrow and joy, you may not understand it. Okay, well, they may say supper instead of dinner. And then instead of saying, oh, it's cold outside, they may say, oh, it's a little nippy, or it's a little chilly. And if you don't know, if you haven't seen the words nippy or chilly before, you may have problem understanding them. Or they say produce instead of vegetable. Or they may say, that person is pretty diminutive. That means pretty small, short and small. And you know about small and short, but if you don't know about diminutive, then you have a problem understanding them. And then, of course, we don't understand well because we don't have a chance to speak with native speakers that often if you live in Vietnam, okay? All right. Okay, to understand the native speakers, you need to understand about the schwang, which is the unstressed vowel. And look at all these examples. Uh, Atlas, the unstressed sound has the A in it. And the next one, college, has the E. Lettuce has a U. Purpose has the O. They're all different vowels, but they all have the same schwa sound, which is like let them up, because they are unstressed. So Atlas, college, lettuce, purpose, and it's not acrobat, but acrobat. That is not acrobat. Telephone, not telephone, telephone. And same with the next line when the stress is on the second or last syllable. Instead of machine, it's machine. Instead of divide, it's divide, divide. Believe, addition, dramatic. And tomorrow, ta, the sound, the schwa sound, not tomorrow. Okay, and then we flap the T into a D, unlike the, not like the British. British don't say this, but the Americans do. Attitude, better. British would say better, but we say better. Community, heating, little, party, related, motive. And then when we have unstressed sound that is a little deeper in our mouth, and we do it with a nasal sound. So instead of button, we say button, certain, garden, hunting, important, mountain, and sentence. Okay. Okay, and then when the N and the T are together and the T has an unstressed syllable, the N would take over, dominates and take over. And center becomes center. And we have county, general, dentist, 20, wanted, 90, winner. Winner sound the same as winner versus loser, okay? Even though it's a winter sound. Advantage, internet, momentum, integrated, sentimental. And sentimental has two places where the N takes over for the T, seni and mental, sentimental. Okay, going to, we tend to say that's gonna. I am going to leave becomes I'm gonna leave. And some people even say, I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna leave. Same as I am going to leave. Okay. So it's a little hard to understand people at times. Want to becomes wanna. Let me becomes let me. Kind of becomes kind of. Out of becomes outa. Don't know becomes don't know. I don't know. Okay, see if you can figure out the what I'm saying here. All of us. It just means all of us. All of us. All of her. All of her. What you doing? What are you doing? What you doing? A cup of tea instead of a cup of tea. Apples and oranges. Apples and oranges. Apples and oranges. And I want to be able to leave. I want to be able to leave. I want to be able to leave. Able to leave. Okay. And then there's some more weird stuff. I mean, funny stuff. See if you can figure out what I'm saying. She had plenty of time to get out of here. She had plenty of time to get out of here. That means you have plenty of time to get out of here. Okay. I can't think enough. I can think enough. Almost like I can't thinking or something, but actually it's I can't thank you enough. I can't thank you enough. And here's some else. This is often said by the people from the South, the southern part of the U.S. Here's some else. Just means he is something else. Okay, so that's why it's kind of hard to understand native speakers, because we can be creative at times and speak a little differently. Okay, and then common speech can be hard to follow because we change things. So like 50, we just say 50. 100, we say 100. 100 instead of 100. Not yet become not yet, and so on and so forth. To him, to him. Lie to me, lie to me. And shouldn't have, shouldn't have, shouldn't have. She shouldn't have, she shouldn't have. And that sort of thing. So, okay, let's see if you can hear the funny way I talk, using all those things I listed above. Last year, she could have gone out there to see him, and then she could have said to him, I'm not sure you've done this, but I think you were able to lie to me when you said you did not steal $150 from me. So that's native English for you, or American English anyway. Okay, so we just finished. Why is it hard to understand native speakers? And this is the last topic, so we get near the end. But why is it hard to understand native speakers? And in my opinions, we don't speak exactly the same way they do. They talk slightly different in casual speech. They use a lot of slang, idioms, and expressions. And maybe because our vocabulary is somewhat limited, or we just don't have a chance to converse regularly with native speakers, okay? So that's number 5, which is the last item. So what have we covered today? All these 5 important topics in the presentation, okay? Oh, one more exercise number 6,732. What is the longest word in English? I remember learning English years ago. The longest word in English at the time is anti-disestablishmentarianism, and it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 28 letters, okay? But now there's the one that takes a cake, and it's longer than that, much longer. And it's pneumonoultramicroscopic silico-volcanical niosis, has 45 letters. I was just kidding when I count the letters because I already know the answer. But to me, the longest word in English is smiles. Smiles, because from the first S to the second S, it's a mile long, right? So it's a champ. Okay, final words, and then I'll get to the comments. I see some questions here in the chat box, so we'll address that very soon. Final words. Do not assume you know the correct pronunciation of a new word, okay? Use dictionaries or cell phone apps, use Merriam-Webster or Oxford or T-Flat or whatever. Don't start out on the wrong foot. Don't just assume, how the word should be pronounced. And then when you do it often enough, it becomes a habit and it's hard to correct later. For example, these words, if you see them for the first time, how do you know how they should be pronounced? What's the correct pronunciation? Coyote, menarche, menarche, psychophone, and tortoise. So you have to look up these words, see how they're pronounced correctly. And then, because in this phone app, for example, you hear native speakers pronouncing them. So the first one is pronounced coyote. Menarche is the second one, sycophant. And tortoise, not tortoise, tortoise, vineyard, itinerary, and so on and so forth. And pay attention when listening to native speakers to improve, because you don't get a chance to listen to them that often. For example, I have friends who've been living in the US for a long time, and they talk to Americans all the time, because they go to work every day and stuff. And they still say things like receipt, and order a pizza. So you have to be attentive, pay attention, okay? And practice hard, but don't practice incorrectly, because that does not make perfect. It makes permanence. You end up with a permanent habit of mispronunciation, and it's hard to change later. So practice correctly makes perfect. So practice all the time. Okay, final words. That's my email address and my Facebook account. If you want some help, give me a holler, okay? Send me an email or befriend me on Facebook, and I'll help you with either speaking problems, issues, or listening, or in any other English issues. But when you contact me, don't just send me an email or send me a friend request and not saying anything, because I wouldn't respond, because I don't know who you are. But if you explain, how you know about me or where you met me, this and that, then I will be glad to help you. Okay, so the last slide. Okay, that's all. And I thank you very much for spending the time with me today. And thank you to the American Center, or as we say, Center of the U.S. Embassy in Hanoi for hosting this. And if you have any comments on future workshop involving English or any other subjects, please send it to me or put it in the chat box, and we may honor that or entertain that in the future. Okay, let me go through real quick with the question here. Okay, Thai and Vu, anti-disestablishmentarianism. Your longest word. That was my longest word when I learned English in the 60s and 70s. But now, it's no longer the longest. No longer. Okay. You're welcome for the presentation. The word question. TDS. What's the pronunciation of the word question? It's question, chun, like chun, question. And that is the chun sound that's when there's an S in front of it, okay? Otherwise, it's a shun, like motion, commotion, emotion. But with the S in front, it becomes question, just like exhaustion or combustion, all have the S in front. But I hear a lot of Americans nowadays pronounce it as question. So I hear it more and more often as time goes on. So I think it's a matter of time, maybe in the 10, 15, 20 years now, we're all going to say question instead of question. But the correct pronunciation is question. Okay. Đào Thị Hà. I don't understand what you want to ask. Bridge, judge, huge. They all have the ch sound at the end with a lot of air coming out. They're aspirated, such ch, bridge, judge, huge, garage, knowledge, all same ch, ch. Okay, and huge. Sometimes I hear people say huge. It's huge. I think it's rather bad English. I just say huge. Okay. I don't see the earlier comments. Let's see if we can bring the earlier comments down. Okay. Vin Pham. Oh, hello, and Vin. Okay, my friend from high school. Jung Kan Long asked, speak better English or speak English better. Which one is correct? I think they're both okay. Depends on what you want to say. And this is more like a phrase, not a sentence. So if you have a complete statement or a clause or sentence, then you worry about, what is correct grammar-wise. But this is a title. So to me, I would like, speak better English better, but it'd be okay too. Okay, anything else? See if we can pull it up, the chat box to see. There were about 300 people watching, so that's very nice. I understand that the American Center of the U.S. Embassy in Hanoi will have a recorded video on their Facebook page later, so you can view this later at your pleasure. You can fast forward and backward, go backward to the area that you're interested in. So that's good. And any more questions, just send me an email to the email address I gave there. And I think that's it. And I thank you so much for spending the time with me today. And it went a little bit longer than expected, but it's all went well. And I hope this has been beneficial and usual. I mean, and useful to you. And I hope, I wish you a lot of good luck and try to improve your English speaking, okay? It's very important. If you learn to speak English well, you'll be head and shoulders above a lot of other Vietnamese people, because that's a weak spot, you know, in Vietnam, is people don't speak English well, and also with listening. But speaking is important, because when you see a native speaker or foreigner and you talk English, that's the first thing you do. You talk to them, and if your English is good, you will impress them. You know, they can't see how well you write or how well you can read a book, reading comprehension. So speaking is important, and try to speak as well as you can, because worst come to worst, you can be an ESL teacher, you know, and make a living teaching people how to speak English better. Okay. All right. I think with that, I would say goodbye and good luck with your studying, learning English, and have a good day. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.